The Sailor Moon collectible card game's unofficial 2023 revival is currently casting voice actors for a series of tutorial videos that will be released alongside the unofficial card expansions later this year. There are still several rules available, and if you're wondering what these videos will be like, picture the Pokemon trading card game Game Boy Color universe combined with Sailor Moon. So our protagonist, Pinako, will lead a new generation of fans through everything they're going to need to know about the Sailor Moon collectible card game, including basic tutorials on how the game is officially played in the way that it is, through the year 2000 where it was ended, all the way through the addition of new rules and some changes that are being made along with the unofficial 2023 revival. The characters and original animations for these videos were created by artist and Sailor Moon fan Daniel Price. Audition today on Casting Call Club. The project name is Project Gaiden Card. Gaiden. Card as in card game. There's a link in today's episode description.
The Rainbow Crystal Alert! The Negaverse is nearby! Serena! I'm ready for bed! Rainbow Crystal Alert, Serena!
Man, I was so preoccupied, I didn't even hear it go off.
I can't believe we wasted our whole evening waiting for silly Andrew. Is he gonna get a piece of my mind?
Just transform!
Welcome back to MOONSTAR. The hiatus is finally over. I know it was kind of a wonky, long time, and we kept wanting to come back, and then we had other stuff come up. You know how life goes. But inadvertently, I realized I'm kind of accidentally giving you a more realistic experience of the way people had to experience this show back in the day, Because you caught random episodes here and there, or there would be, the whole summer between when they would release new episodes and these random breaks for holidays and stuff like that. Along with, for Sailor Moon, they just straight up stopped dubbing it. Save Our Sailors came along, and we had that whole Pop-Tart thing that I love to reference. I just find that so funny. But yeah, so we're back in time for June, officially in time for summer. We have a great summer planned. I don't want to say too much. Today we're gonna cover... Oh, I gotta go back to the script. So, hi, I'm Alex, one of your hosts. You knew that. And this week on MOONSTAR, a Sailor Moon podcast, Chris and I get back to our weekly format, covering episode 25 of the original DiC Dub, titled Too Many Girlfriends. This episode, along with the following 3, were some of the last episodes that I saw of Sailor Moon as a kid. And if you want to find out how that happened, stay tuned. Let's just get into the episode. I'll see you in the outro. So it's been an interesting week. The last thing people will have heard from us would be the 1-year special, which for me, it's been a full year. For you, it's only been a little under a full year because you kind of showed up pretty quickly. I think I only made it like 5 or 6 episodes in because the first, I want to say one of the first ones we did together was, what, do you remember what it was?
I don't remember if it was I think it was like episode 5 or 6 maybe.
It was the chinchilla episode, wasn't it? I think it was the one right before that, I think the first time. So how does it feel? We didn't really talk about it last week, but how does it feel having done this that long?
It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It doesn't. It feels really quick to me too. But I think in that short amount of time, because in the grand scheme of things, I guess a year isn't that long. I feel like we've made a lot of progress, and I'm really proud of like where we are versus where we started from. I also wanted to mention, you had gotten feedback before from, I think, Susan Roman and probably other people. Oh, you should have a radio show. And you're like, no, I don't want to do all that. Well, you kind of do have one now. So
yeah.
Never say never. Has your thought on that changed at all? Would you ever do like a mainstream gig on radio or voice?
Uh, Probably not. Just I don't know. Like I think by now I would just do what I do myself. Like not really, probably not so much a radio thing. I
You're
don't know though.
happy in
Yeah.
your lane right now. That's fair enough. So tell me about your week. What happened this week?
Oh, it was good. It was mostly Wednesday through Friday night. I was in the city because Wednesday was my friends the next series of like monthly shows that they do, and that's the one that I sent you like 2 clips of just so you
Yeah,
have
those
context.
those were great. I love the monster one because I've seen that video
Video.
before. Yeah. So as soon as I was like, is this? Oh, okay, yeah, I know what this is. And then going into Lady Gaga, Monster
Yep.
was, of course, the appropriate choice. What are the performers' names? Do you know?
Yeah, oh, the ones I sent you, yeah. The one that was an actual woman was Sigourney Beaver, who was a finalist on Dragula the last season.
Which one did she do?
She did the Pat Benatar Heartbreaker
okay.
song, yeah.
Yes.
And then the other one that was doing the monster video was Luna Muse, who's one of the best. He's only my age, and but he's been doing drag for a long time. He's one of the best and most well-known queens in the city here.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some of these people. Well, not the Dragula one. Maybe they would. I don't know. But some of the other ones pop up on something like Drag Race or Dragula in the future. What do you think? What direction do you think they would go? Say their name again. The one who did the monster,
Luna Muse.
Luna Muse. Yeah. Would they do Drag Race or Dragula? Do you think?
Probably Drag Race, because they don't. I mean, the only like horror / darker thing that they do is my friend's show. Like they were just on Friday. I wasn't there, but Friday, like early evening, they were part of a drag show at the Mall of America that Sasha Velour was also doing.
Oh wow, she's really well known because she did nightgowns in New York City for a long time before she was on the show, and that was a really big. It was like a competition in the, I don't know, in the nightclub. I guess they probably do something similar over there. Well, that's exciting. Do you have plans to see more drag this week?
No, I don't know when the next thing I would go to at. I mean, the one that I went to on Friday after Wednesday was one of my other, like the other main drag performer that I'm friends with that lives here that also does Justin shows. They by Akira. That was their first time hosting a show since they've moved here, because they moved here from Boston last fall, and that was really cool too. It was sci-fi themed.
I would like that. I love sci-fi. I like whenever it goes alien. I don't know. They had someone who was supposed to be like, their whole thing was they were an alien on the last season of Drag Race, and then they got sent home first. And I was kind of bummed out because I was like, this would have been interesting to see. But also I think they were like maybe a little green, you know?
Yeah.
And they might end up coming back in the future. So we'll see. But that's enough about drag stuff. Did you do any interviews this past week?
No, I'm sure probably the next ones I do will be the next there's only one more upcoming Genshin character in the next update. That's a female character that'll probably, I'm sure whoever voices them will be announced like in the next couple weeks. And then my favorite later this week, it's always the first week of May, is my favorite. It's my personal favorite update for Fire Emblem Heroes, which is the Fire Emblem mobile game that every Fire Emblem character across every single game that's been released so far is part of. And the first week of May is always the fallen / like the fallen means like evil / possessed versions of the characters. So every May there's like I don't know, 4 or 5 characters that get evil slash like or evil or possessed versions of their characters. So I'm hoping that they aren't all going to be like characters that I've already like people that I've already interviewed when that gets revealed later this week.
I never thought about that, but you are kind of dependent on like what the new content is feeding into who you're going to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's a little less of like you choosing and more of the content picks for you. But I guess, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, that's definitely how it is in the case of like Genshin and Fire Emblem, but not so much like, you know, obviously I've done plenty of voice actors that aren't part of either franchise yet. So
true, that's true. Well, I hope those go well whenever it does come up. And I had a friend asking me if you have any plans to dig more into the card captors voice actors, or if I could nudge you in that direction. So
I'm guessing you mean like from the original like censored cast.
Well, yes, but also any of it would really be fine. Because I think here I like that we also have like for the Sailor Moon ones, we have DiC Dub interviews and we have the old ones because I think it's, you know, both have their merit. So now that you say that, that just makes me like have an epiphany kind of because I've done the woman that plays Sakura in the Texas dubs of stuff the woman that like in the Clear Card series and the Tsubasa series. I've done the woman that did Sakura for just one of the movies. So I've done all but one like incarnation of Sakura. I've done one incarnation of Yukito, one incarnation of Shaoran, one of Toya. I've done one of the main villains from Clear Card. I've done the original series of Kero, like the one that was censored. I've done the Clear Card Tomoyo. Yeah, I've done like a bunch of people in the franchise already, I guess. See, so yeah, first of all, I know you don't mind if I use any of that, but anything from that, like even when coming back to Sailor Moon, like I would find it fascinating. Have you interviewed Jupiter, the DiC Dub Jupiter?
Yeah.
I'm going to find it really fascinating when we get there and I start putting those out to compare her approach and her experience of everything, like being Sailor Jupiter, being associated with her, to Susan Romans, because they're going to have two totally, I would think, maybe not completely different, but they're going to connect to the character in different ways.
Yeah.
And when you're a fan of the show, at least in my opinion, whatever iteration you prefer, I'm always fascinated by new information, period.
Right.
Like that's just where I come from with it. So whatever version I'm getting something interesting about, I'm kind of happy there. Which, speaking of, I got a few things that are kind of exciting for us this week that we're going to do episodes on later. One is an official, I think it was called Poju's World, and it's a collector's magazine from the 90s that focuses on trading cards. And they had an entire volume that was the Sailor Moon collectible card game volume.
Oh, okay.
So I have that, and we're going to do an episode about that. And then I got one of the old Animerica volumes. I actually have two that I found because we were talking recently. Remember, I think I said, oh, I don't know if we had anything like Nakayoshi.
Yep.
And then I did some research, and of course we did. I just didn't know about it, which is kind of how the world is. So that's sort of a correction for me. And it'll be fun to dig into that because it's something I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Until recently. Also, I have my eye on something else I'm not going to talk about yet, but it would, in my opinion, be for our show specifically, like one of the single coolest things I could possibly get for us. And I'm just going to say that off air. Cool. I'm going to tell you this is getting cut out.
Item obtained. That means you get to hear this super secret segment after all.
But it's I'm trying to get, it's a DiC, I don't know, it's like the show, it's like the binder they sent to stores that were selling Sailor Moon stuff in the 90s, and it has like a whole like organized thing in it where it's like you can get these transparencies of the backgrounds. This is like the description of the characters. It's all like laminated and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And for our show focusing on the DiC Dub, I can't think of like a better place for that to go. Because first I'm going to scan it all, and I think that's like Sailor Moon history that deserves to be shared with everybody. So I'm going to put that out. But then I would really be so sad if that ended up in some dusty collector's shelf that no one ever got to hear anything about it or see any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just kind of got sucked away into the ether. But I'm not even gonna lie, that's why I did the garage sale this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, I know this thing is going to be expensive, and I'm doing that. I'm like hauling ass on deliveries and stuff because I'm like, I'm gonna get this. I don't care how much it costs. I'm gonna make this freaking happen for us. Because it is, I mean, honestly, I'll just send you the pictures of it, but it is so cool. Anyway. So that's exciting for some cool stuff here. And then I guess I'll talk about the garage sale a little. So I had my whole little Sailor Moon setup and everything there, and this is the second year I've done it like that. And both times it kind of goes the same way because I have my other miscellaneous items out, and people come over because of the Sailor Moon stuff. And like I put my old TV out and I screen the show all day. Like I just have it playing in the background for people to walk up or whatever. And the thing is, like, no one ever buys the Sailor Moon videos because at a garage sale everyone wants something for like $1, and I'm not selling you a collectible item for $1 just because you can't research the value, you know what I mean? But anyway, the thing is though, they bring people over, and then it always inevitably starts these like great conversations. Oh, I used to watch that show with my kids in 1996. I haven't seen that for 20 years. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Kids who have never heard of it before discovering it when they walk by and stuff. And then they buy other things, which is great. But I just loved that. And it kind of highlighted something for me, which is a big reason why I did this show. But I've noticed over the years, anytime I've leaned into Sailor Moon, it's always brought me like positivity in really random ways. And it always just kind of elevates my life. And I don't really know why that is, like, but it's just, there's something about it that kind of like, for a lot of people, it almost disarms them. And I think it's something that is, whatever version you prefer. I don't know a lot of people that just openly are like, it's trash and it's awful. Like, it's sort of a universally beloved thing for people who do know of it. I don't know, but it brought a lot of positivity, and I got to talk with some other cool people. Like a lady came up to me who was similar my age. She's a kid, and the kid was obsessed with the toys and stuff, but we were talking about the show and other things, and I told her how we do the podcast, and we just get into this conversation about how like people are so hard on themselves about the most menial things. And that's why, like, I don't know, it was like somehow Sailor Moon led into this whole other conversation. And then we were talking about how you don't actually have to fold your laundry. We just think you have to fold it. Anyway, so it devolved into this weird thing but at the end of it, she's like, I feel like I was supposed to come here and talk to you today because I feel so much better about all of these like random little things that came up, all because she saw the Sailor Moon thing and it brought them over. You know what I mean? So little moments like that tend to happen to me a lot with Sailor Moon, and I had a nice one this week, and I made enough from the garage sale to put a big dent into that thing I'm trying to get for everybody here. So I'm hopeful too about that. And I hope we got a few new listeners too. People seemed excited that this is going on. I think that's all I have for my week this week. Do you have anything else at the beginning of the show?
No, I think I said everything.
Okay. I thought there was something else. Oh, I was going to tell you about Martha and Hank. I'll tell you about them next week. They live in my backyard. Anyway.
Today on Sailor Moon, I find out news about Andrew that sends me into the depths of despair. But not for long. Zoisite's monsters are back, and they're after the rainbow crystals. Can the Sailor Scouts vanquish the evil forces of the Negaverse? Stay right there and find out.
The episode this week is Too Many Girlfriends. What is the Japanese title?
Total Chaos, Messy Love Rectangle.
Why is it a rectangle?
Because it's Makoto Usagi, Reika, Motoki.
I've never heard anything but triangle.
Yeah,
I didn't even think. That's so funny to me. And I just like the word messy being in a title. I mean, Too Many Girlfriends is fine. I like the Japanese title better here.
Yeah.
Because it got an audible reaction. We're also, because of this episode, we're starting a new tape officially. So this is the one called Green-Eyed Monsters. And this is the first VHS tape that features, or at least in the ADV release, that features any kind of villain on the cover. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No.
So the background is like a dark green, and they have art of Zoisite on the front of this one. Yeah, and Zoisite is actually the only general to be featured on the cover of any of the tapes or DVDs. The only other villain we see is Queen Beryl.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's obviously at the end. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm going to insert this later, but it's also available on the DVD.
Introducing Sailor Venus, which is Volume 5 of the North American DVD release.
One thing, though, because, you know, I was working really hard on that website, putting like all the details on each individual video and DVD onto it. And something I noticed when I was doing that, because I was typing out the descriptions, is when they switched over to the DVD release, because it was fewer volumes, they took on a lot of the ones where it would like skip the VHS. On the back, they would use the skipped VHS title as like the lead in to the description for the DVD itself. And I just thought that was really cute for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. In my head, as a creative person, I imagine the same team worked on both.
Yeah.
And they probably put a lot of effort in onto the VHS volumes, like artistically, that were being dropped. So it was sort of their way of like carrying some of it through, like a little nod to the work they put in before. I don't know. That's just me guessing though. What was the, like, how did you first experience this episode? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was another one, would have been later on, like when I was like watching stuff on a computer and whatever.
Okay. I think a lot of season one, like, is a lot of the show like that for you in general?
Not a lot. I mean, more so like the earlier seasons, because I didn't experience a lot of it until I went back, besides, you know, stuff that was on TV or stuff that I owned.
I might be wrong, but I want to say you at least got to see some of S or Super S on TV. Am I right?
Yeah, a good amount of it.
Okay, that gives me a better reference. So for me, this was one that I kind of have a weird story about. I managed to somehow see most of season 1, most of season 2, all of season 3, all of season 4, without ever seeing this tape. I don't know how. And so I was talking to one of my friends about the show at one point, and she mentioned Rita, who we meet this week.
Right.
And I was
yeah.
yeah. Well, you know, there's another name for her, but I was like, who is Rita? And then it was this whole thing and I was like, wait a second. This character has a girlfriend and her name's Rita and she was a monster. What? And it turned into this whole deal. And I remember I had to like track this VHS down at a Blockbuster. And that's the first time I ended up seeing it, was from renting it. But it was a whole thing because I had never met this character before. And this tape also has, in my opinion, one of the best episodes of the show on it, which we'll get to later. So when I did discover it, I was like, oh, I'm kind of obsessed with these 4 episodes. But anyway, so yeah, I have a little bit of a fun connection to this one already. What is the very first thing we see in this episode?
The sky switching from like normal to rainy after there's a radio voice off screen saying that the chance of rain is only 10%, and then Makoto is running without an umbrella and complaining about it.
Heidi-ho, folks out there, it's Wally the Weatherman. I always get it right. Sunny and clear today, people. It's gonna be a beauty.
Oh, great! This is just great. I'm gonna be totally soaked. That stupid weatherman never gets it right!
Yeah, and they call him Wally the Weatherman in the English one, and he's like, I always get it right. And then they make a little joke, he never gets it right, because that was like a big, I don't know, I remember jokes like that being made a lot on TV in the 90s about how like weather people are always wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a little note that this was another example of like, it's a very small detail, but it's that off-screen world building thing that they do sometimes where we never see him. But at least in the English, now we know Wally the Weatherman exists and he's never right, but he says he's always right. So it's like, okay, cool. And we get to see this moment with Lita or Makoto in the rain where she kind of falls down and has those giant eyes. That's become kind of like a GIF or a GIF moment.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the animator, because this is another episode. I had a hard time placing this one. Let me guess first. And I'm going to go in forms of level because I can't remember anyone's name. I'm going to say this was like not the top queen, but the one right below her. Am I right?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. It was we've talked about him a lot on this season because he only worked on season 1. Kiyoshi Matsumoto. He did besides this episode, he did Mars's debut, and he does the last episode the last 2 episodes he did of season 1 were 36 and 42.
But he's not the worst one though, is he?
No, that's not Ando.
Oh, Ando. I can't remember his name. So he's somewhere in the middle, right? Would you say?
Yeah, he's fine.
Because the thing that I noted about this is that some of the goofy moments in it I really liked, and then some of them were like just a tad too crazy for my taste.
Yeah.
Like regarding the style of Sailor Moon. But the like too much would go away very quickly.
Yeah.
And I thought overall there were some really cool choices made during this one. Say the animator's name one more time.
Kiyoshi Matsumoto.
Okay. Who does Lita run into here in the rain?
Matoki.
Yeah, or Andrew in the English. And a note I made here is Lita's face is extremely expressive. Like they cut to all these different expressions, and there's one where she kind of has her mouth open and one like fang tooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought both the range in the animation here and the range in Susan's performance was fantastic.
Don't stare! Why don't you watch where you're going?
Sorry, Lita.
Sorry isn't good enough, buddy.
That sounds like Andrew. I'm so sorry, Andrew.
Here, let me help you. Don't be sorry, Lita. It was my fault. I missed you, Lita. I haven't seen you at the arcade lately. I'm on my way over there right now if you'd like to come with me. I'd really like it if you would.
What beautiful eyes he has.
I can give you free tokens, too.
Oh, wow, he really likes me.
Earth to Lita. You okay? Here, let me help you.
Okay.
I don't know. I just thought this moment was really fun. Does this stick out to you in any way?
Yeah, it's a nice little, I like every moment in Sailor Moon where there's some kind of romantic interaction, and then there's that one of the like memorable jazz tracks that plays behind it, and then there's either a flower background or it ends up turning into like a watercolor still frame, but that's more in the like later part of the show.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think what you're referring to here, because I was just, it's like I think they tend to do more of that white flash background for that here.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before. And then yeah, later it goes very watercolor. It's kind of like it'll fade into a still moment, right? And then they usually throw some rose petals or something across the screen. I love moments like that too. And as you just said, Sailor Moon is also the best of jazz. So what do we have during this little jazz moment with Lita and her fantasy? What's going on here?
It's another thing that's typical to her character, is just thinking that Motoki looks like her senpai from her previous school that dumped her.
So they changed it up a little.
Okay.
In the English, because I thought it was probably just that, but in this one it was actually coming off as if she was reading Andrew as liking her, inviting her on a date to the arcade. He mentions giving her free tokens, which I thought was funny. And then in reality they just end up walking together and start talking about something. What are they talking about here?
They're talking about I would think it's the same in English, that like where he lives and what his favorite foods are, or like she asks him to write it down for her, and then in the Japanese it's that he likes like rice. I don't know what kind of rice, but just rice with beef.
No, it's less like direct and dry, because to me that's kind of dry conversation, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like, oh well, they're generally talking about cooking, and Lita is just very like enthusiastic about how much she loves it, and then Andrew is just kind of being a big dope, and he's like,
I can't cook toast.
which I thought was like the funniest way to say it. And I actually don't remember that much about Andrew's character when I am not like, deeply entrenched in the show, but like I haven't paid that much attention to him either. But how would you describe the state of his home when we see it?
It's just like a messy apartment.
Yeah, and then what is his personality generally like?
He's nice and easygoing and doesn't really get bothered by very much stuff.
Would you say he's kind of like lightly goofy too? I don't know.
That's probably more in the English, not really in the Japanese.
I would say there's like, it's not intentionally funny, but there's sort of an undertone of him being like a lovable. He's one of those people who like means well, but struggles to take care of himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how he comes off to me.
Yeah.
And not in a negative way, but in just a like, well, he's on his own in this apartment. He's probably, we don't know, what's his age?
I think he's like around the same age as Mamoru.
So
something.
He's young then.
Yeah.
And let's be real, all of us at a very young age, or unless you're extremely blessed with cleaning abilities, struggle with it at some point or another, So I don't know. I think he's just supposed to be like a messy bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes off a little more heightened to me. That just might be my read on him. So they talk about this cooking, and something else I noticed, which is probably should have been obvious, but whatever. A lot of Lita's or Sailor Jupiter's episodes where they do character building with her also involve rain or storms. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
And it's not even like really that relevant to the plot usually. They're just kind of there. Which I like. I think that's a cool detail. Had you noticed that before?
Not really until now, I guess. Yeah.
I felt like when I wrote that down, I was like, ugh, this should be so obvious because, the planet Jupiter is storms and then her powers and everything. But I guess it's just something I didn't think about. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've already named the English name, but who is our character of the week? Reika or Rita Blake in the English version. Does she have a Japanese last name?
Yeah, Reika
Nishimura. I guess Blake, they took the end of the sound from break or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so who is she?
Motoki's girlfriend.
And what is her, like, how would you describe her?
She's mature looking for her age. She comes off as like, well, obviously she's really intelligent because she wants to go to Africa to study how life was created on Earth and science of human development and all that stuff.
They label her a research student at the university for biology. Mm-hmm. They mention that in the Japanese and all.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, it just her character lightly reminds me of the human, like Pluto, like her little backstory, because it's not
Oh,
really ever
yeah.
shown in the show, but if you read about her, it's like I think is she a doctor actually, or she's like on the way to become a doctor or something. I don't know. She's very into higher education. But she kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of her a little bit. And what is Zoisite's? Oh wait, this is after that. So we meet Rita.
There you are.
Rita, I was just thinking about you.
You're too good to me, you know. A girl could get awfully spoiled around you.
Then you got the flowers I sent you?
They're beautiful.
Guess what? I got us reservations tonight at that Italian place you like.
Oh, Andrew, I'm sorry. I won't be able to go.
Why not? They're not making you work overtime again, are they?
No, I've been promoted.
You have? Rita, that's terrific. You gotta go to Africa with Dr. Bennett like you've always wanted.
He's the best. I'm lucky. But it's 2 years.
Hey, lovebirds.
Darian, you've got to quit sneaking up like that. Oh, look at the time. I've got to go. I'll give you a call when I get home, okay, Andrew? Bye, Darian!
Why is she significant in this episode? Besides just being like a rainbow crystal holder.
Well, I mean, she does. I don't know. It's probably not what you were going to say, but she is like one of the only side characters that doesn't come up very much that actually has another episode dedicated to her a second time.
I wasn't going to say that, but that is true. She is. But I was sort of thinking that she kind of serves as a catalyst to give us more of this childlike romance with the girls that highlights their age more. And the whole thing where it's like without them having a rival to react to, then they couldn't tell that story.
Yeah.
You know? So she kind of fills that missing role in a good way to where they bring her back later. And I think it's like a different dynamic when she comes back later for sure. When we cut over to the Negaverse, what's going on?
Homing Crystal, it's time to retrieve another rainbow crystal. Show us the next target. Rita Blake, the research student from the School of Biology.
Too bad we have to destroy such beauty.
How can you say that of a human, Malachite? You told me I was the ultimate example of perfect beauty.
Shh, don't be mad. Queen Beryl will see your anger as weakness. Zoisite,
Go away.
you know there's no one more important to me in all the Negaverse.
I'm so lucky. Now it's time to collect what's rightfully ours.
Zoisite and Kunzite are looking at who the blue crystal is in, and then that's actually one of my favorite like moments in season 1. And it's drawn nice enough. Kunzite says how beautiful she is, and then Zoisite says that like, oh, you think that she's more attractive than me, and then Kunzite immediately materializes a pink rose and gives it to Zoisite and says that nobody matches how beautiful you are, and they like embrace a little bit, and that's the scene.
Yeah, it's a really interesting moment that it's something that like as a kid, it was the first time I realized they were together. Because I just hadn't been picking up on it, up until that point. And so I was kind of like, this episode gave me a lot of like, oh, moments. And that was one of them. And I love the flower thing. I thought that was so cool. It highlights Zoisite's character a lot, which is steeped in jealousy, I think, and insecurity. And I think Zoisite speaks to the part of a lot of us that just wants to be validated sometimes. And I think a lot of the time the generals or the villains are meant to do that, where they take sort of a human quality that we all sort of struggle with and then amplify that, like, oh, if it really gets out of control, it can kind of look like this, right? And jealousy is a very, I think that's at some point in every single human's life, we're jealous of someone for something. just period. Like
Yeah.
whether it's big or small, we all have felt it in some way. Maybe that's why we connect to her easily. I don't know. After this scene with them, we see Darian and Andrew having kind of like this guy chat, which we don't get much of after the first season, maybe a little in the second season. What are they talking about here?
So what you so down about, Andrew? Rita's gonna leave. For Africa. That bug research project with Dr. Bennett came through today.
Bummer. I guess that means you guys are gonna have to break up.
We could still have a long-distance relationship, or maybe I'll go to Africa and study entomology too.
But you hate bugs.
I think I could learn to like them for her.
I thought that you wanted to become a surgeon.
Well, not if it means giving up Rita. You know, I've never known anybody like her. She's great.
Won't work long distance.
Haven't you ever been totally gone on someone?
Me? Come on, get real.
Yeah, well, you meet this person who's just totally special and everything clicks, and you know this is forever.
Forever? You've got to be kidding me. I can barely stay interested for 5 minutes, no way.
Yeah. What about Serena's friend Ray?
Nah, I know she's got some silly schoolgirl crush on me, but we're just pals, nothing more.
She told me you've been going to karate together.
Beat him all 3 times.
But you're right about the age thing. I think of Serena and her friends kind of like little sisters.
Wait till he finds out. Serena and Lita both have the most humongous crushes on him.
They're talking about Reika and what she is deciding on about going to Africa or just staying here because she is like so in love with Motoki. And then Motoki says that he ran into Makoto and that Makoto wants to come over again with, or no, I don't know if we got to the part yet where like Makoto is on their round. We didn't get to the part where Makoto and Usagi are talking, but
no, that's next, I think.
Yeah. And then Motoki says he like reminds Mamoru that they're all just middle school girls, and then he has a little, he remembers to himself that Ray is only in middle school, and then that's pretty much it. And then Motoki says that he views them all as like little sisters, not really as romantic interests.
What I need to know, do we know what Mamoru's age is here?
He's either like a freshman or sophomore in college.
Okay, I'm gonna say something controversial yet brave. I don't condone that type of relationship, but I did grow up in an era where I was watching a lot of that happen around me with friends. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the reason why having it in a show like this, I think a lot of people, if they don't know the show and they like, that's a detail they hear, they automatically want to jump on the like, you know, oh my God, like that whole thing and like have a reactive answer to it. To me, it highlights something that was very common at the time, something that straight up probably should be addressed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in culture at some point, whether we do or not, I don't know. That's kind of like above my pay grade. But it's just, it doesn't, I think they did a good job of not having it come off predatory in Sailor Moon. And it could have. Like it really could have. I think it makes it easier that they're like young college age and it's not like they're 30 or old. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes I look at Darian and I'm like, are you 40 or like 18? Like I can't tell. So it does kind of help a little, but no, their discussion in the other one, they didn't touch on it at all. I think because they didn't want to highlight that.
Right.
Probably. And it was more of them talking about how Andrew would be willing to give up his dreams of, which I can't remember what they are, and then he would do that for her, and then Darian's like, you can't give up your dreams for this lady, and then something happens and Andrew brings up Ray, and that's when we see Darian being like all funny about it. And I think in the Japanese, when he's remembering Ray's age, they have him saying in his mind, oh, wait till Andrew finds out that Serena and Lita have huge crushes on him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a scene that, I mean, it depends on what your audience is. I don't think I would have highlighted it either to a younger audience, because the thought behind that being, we don't want them to watch this and then be like, oh yeah, let me at 14 think it's cool to pursue college boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if Sailor Moon had been on, if the first season and second season had been made when Cartoon Network was already existed, I think they probably would have like if it. Yeah, I think they probably would have left that
Same.
left.
Oh, you cut out. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. And I think that we see some of that, which we'll get into more later with S and Super S. And as much as the DiC Dub and even some of the like choices they do change with it, I kind of like some of them. I don't think that it would have worked going further into the series because the series just kind of gets more and more mature as we go.
Right.
So it sort of happened at the right time when the licensing switched over, if you ask me. Anyway, back to this episode. So we have this guy talk with Andrew and Darian that's kind of different in whichever version you're watching. And what happens after that? Oh, I think this is where we cut to we go to Lita barging into Andrew's place after that somehow.
Oh yeah, the little clip where she goes in there when he's not home and then sees the photo of them and Reka together.
Well, in the English one, it was when they went there together and it was like a huge mess. And then she starts cleaning everything. And I put, because they might have put this out of order, I don't know. But she had this tie around her forehead with some Japanese text on it for cleaning. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, the headband says kamikaze, which I know what that means without having to look it up. It's Japanese for whirlwind.
Is that like a thing, like when you clean, you tie your hair up or something like that?
I don't know if it's a thing over there. I think that's just like a gag thing they did, is like referring to herself as a whirlwind, cleaning up his stuff.
Because sometimes I watch the show and I like use it as a reference point for culture I'm not part of, you know? And like, because specifically I'm thinking about, I know you've seen Spirited Away. Studio Ghibli.
Yeah,
you guys choose. But there's that scene where they're doing the cleaning in it and they kind of like have to tie their clothing a certain way, and then it's like I remember her running and pushing the thing across the floor. And I remember watching that and thinking like, oh my gosh, this is how you have to clean a floor like that that's made out of that kind of wood and blah blah blah. Anyway, I was just curious if that was like a real significant thing, but it sounds like it was just a joke, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Who is it?
Hey, Andrew, it's Lita! Ready to cook up a storm?
Hold on. Be right there. I was just on my way to the market.
Not so fast. Let's see what you need.
Sorry, the place is kind of a mess.
People always say that when company comes over, and it's never true. Except in this case. Got dish soap?
Yeah, I think there's some left.
Excellent. You get busy cleaning that mountain of dishes. I just can't make anything good in a mess like this. Now let's go.
So we see this like cleaning moment happen, and this is now, as you said, Lita finds out about Rita here, and then what happens after that?
Then it goes to Makoto and Usagi at school, and Usagi just jokes that's like, oh, you must be like, you look like someone broke your heart, and then Makoto gets angry right away, and then right after that asks who it is that she's talking about, and then she says that it's Motoki, and then Usagi's all shocked and disappointed because she's interested in him too.
Yeah. And this, how is the tone of this scene?
It's pretty comical and sisterly. Like I really do. I like that scene at the end of it where Makoto's eyes are all sparkling and says that, oh, well, even though she essentially says that even though he has a girlfriend, that both of us can still try and asking him out anyway, because, you know, they don't have anything to lose. And in the Japanese, it says there's, when they are shown against that background, that really nice background of the city, it says that there's no tomorrow for the pretty soldiers.
Oh, I didn't know that. That scene you just mentioned, with her eyes would be a really cool one to see production art from, I think. Actually, this episode in general.
Yeah, certain ones, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure how close it was to the Japanese. I really love this moment though, just for how cute and affable Serena and Lita are here, specifically Susan and Terry, like the English performance.
Seriously, what's wrong? I've never seen you look so miserable.
Andrew's in love.
No!
He's been with her for a whole year.
Well, how come he never mentioned her to us so we could stop moping over him? It's not fair!
Hey, I thought you were over him.
He was my first crush!
But I thought you were madly in love with Tuxedo Mask.
I am, but he's not interested in me!
Would you dial it down, okay? You can't blame her. The only guy who's got the hots for her is the school dweebmeister Melvin the Cerebellum.
Oh, now you traitor!
Don't scare me like that.
If there's one thing being a Sailor Scout's taught me, it's that you never give up, no matter how bad things may be going. I'll get what I want. Oh, yeah. Yes, I will.
Who exactly did you have in mind?
Andrew! I'm not really over him.
We've still got a chance. His girlfriend's going away pretty soon, so don't give up. One of us might be able to get him.
Do you think so? I guess it can't hurt to try. Oh, romance will be ours. And we won't stop until we find it. We're Love Scouts.
Somebody tell me this is a really bad dream. I mean bad.
There's just like these cute moments of Serena talking to herself, and I noticed that some of the timing and beats on it, while they might not sound perfectly like natural for conversation, Terry delivered it in a way where you don't notice it unless you're looking for it. And I was, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I see why she paused there, because the mouth, even though she should have said that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really had to pay attention closely to notice that. And I thought that Susan does a really nice job with her transitions from angry to hopeful. Like all of her range of emotion with Lita is truly incredible as a voice actress. She's I don't know if you'll understand this reference because it's a little specific to me, but she's sort of my Sporty Spice.
Okay.
Okay, let me explain that. In the sense that when I was growing up, the Spice Girls hit really big when I was still in an elementary school.
Spice Girls Wild in concert right here on Fox Family Channel.
Scary, baby, posh, ginger, sporty.
And there was a lot of talk about like, who is your favorite Spice Girl? And you know all of them, right?
Yeah.
So you have baby, sporty, posh, scary, and ginger. And when I was a kid, like most little like blonde children, my favorite was baby, because I was like, I'm a baby. I look like her. You know, I want to be her. Maybe I wanted her shoes so bad. Anyway, so as an adult, though, when I was like listening to the Spice Girls CDs, like they put out a greatest hits CD or something when I was early in college, and I got it. And I was really listening to the vocals and pulling apart like who was singing each part with my ear. And I was like, why is Sporty Spice the most incredible vocalist? And I never noticed it. She gets every solo, if you listen to their songs, every little moment that is like one of those like, oh wow, that's a really good like riff over the chorus or whatever. It's always her. And it is. And she has one of there's something about female vocals where it's like, if you have a sort of raspy quality to your voice, I don't know why, but that just like Miley Cyrus, like anyone who sounds like they smoke 16 packs a day and can also sing, it hits really well. I don't know why. So, and with Susan Roman, it's kind of like, I think maybe because my best friend's growing up favorite character was Jupiter, it was kind of like she claimed her a little bit. So I just never, you know, I was like, oh, I'm Mercury then. But really paying attention to her performance, she's like the Sporty Spice of this cast, where she has the longest tension, like the longest attack lines, and they're really, really memorable. Yeah. And then just a lot of the cast is great at doing different emotions, but I'll be honest, I think she might equal or even be like slightly better than Terry. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the original main inner cast for the first dub, I mean, I think that it's probably because they were, you know, obviously Susan never got recast and Katie didn't really get recast for the most part. I think that both of them are the strongest in terms of the original inner cast members for the first dub.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Sorry, I had to turn that off. Yeah, I don't know. I think we got a lot of strong performances, but I'm also curious to see if by the time we get to like the end of R, where things change over, if we'll feel differently, you know, because who knows? We might get Emily Claire Barlow in there and a bunch of people, and I might start changing my tune. So after this great moment where they end it by saying we're Love Scouts, and we get this sort of like Sailor Scout-esque animation, but they're not transformed.
Yeah.
Darian shows up again. And I noticed his voice sounds kind of odd to me here.
I think I'll see him alone.
Hey, Meatball Head!
I thought I smelled a rat.
Andrew's not working today, guys. He's busy helping his girlfriend pack for Africa. Give it up, you two. Face it, he just isn't interested.
Ooh, go fall in a sewer someplace, okay?
Before I get mad.
I'm only trying to save you two from complete and total humiliation. Believe me, it's not a pretty sight.
Why would you care?
Yeah, why?
Meatball Head, he and Rita are really tight, so you should leave him alone.
How many times do I have to tell you my name is Serena, not Meatball Head, or is your brain too small to grasp that?
I know your name, Meatball Head.
In the English one, I don't know, it's like strained or overly controlled. I can feel there's like something off about it. I don't know if you remember that or not. But what he's there and kind of like mocking Lita and Serena, and then we have this moment where he makes Lita angry, and what happens?
Oh, you mean like when they're both just out by themselves? Like,
yeah.
It's a gag, but she chokes him, like asking him to tell her more about Reika, and then he kind of faints in a way, and then in the Japanese, the nickname that she was calling Mamoru in that whole scene was Nasty Guy. So then she's like, "Oh, Nasty Guy, are you okay?"
Why Nasty Guy? Was he being just a big jerk or something, like to that level?
Well, yeah, because I'm sure it's similar in English, because in Japanese, when he shows up, he says to both of them that, you guys shouldn't even bother going in there and talking to him, because he just thinks that you guys are like little kid sisters to him.
It probably is similar to that. I'm blanking on exactly what he said there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then for some reason though, the choking thing, like I remember it, but when I watch it, I don't know if it's the English editing, it seems to come out of nowhere a little.
Really, Lita? You're gonna make fools of yourselves.
But we're Love Scouts, and we won't give up until our mission is accomplished and one of us dates Andrew.
Oh, brother, I wonder if I was this wigged out when I was in junior high school.
Wigged out? Take it back! Are you okay?
To me. And then at the end, when she like drops him and he faints, she's like, "Oops, sorry." Like, it's so weird. I don't know. I find that whole moment kind of strange. But anyway, after we see Lita choking out Darian, she goes further into creep mode. And what happens?
She goes to the college that Reika is studying at, and then sees her leaving, and then instead of telling Reika to go to Africa and not prioritize Matoki, she says she ends up saying the opposite and says like to do what you're most passionate about, and like don't let, or like she says like make your choice between your passions or your love life.
I think it was probably, I mean, she basically says, she goes in with the intention of trying to break them up by
Yeah.
encouraging her to go to Africa. And then after she does her little speech, like, go to Africa, don't let any man stop you, she then encourages them, like, maybe it'll work out long distance. And then she's like, oh, I'm so bad at this romantic sabotage stuff. And it was kind of funny because it's one of those moments I remember every time I watch it, I kind of feel like this. I always feel a little bit gross when I know they're trying to break up Andrew and his girlfriend, because that kind of behavior to me just like makes my stomach turn, frankly. Like, I don't know how else to say it, because people put a lot of work into relationships, and second, nobody knows exactly the details and the agreements made in a relationship except for the two people in it. And we all have different sets of morals, right? So like when you go around and you see a situation and maybe you want somebody from a relationship for yourself, or maybe you think, oh, I know so and so, whatever, like, and you want to break them up because you don't like someone or whatever your reasoning is. To me, you're just inviting like a world of terrible karmic interaction onto yourself. Because think about it, if it works and you do, and let's say your goal is to get with that person and you do end up with them, what if they find out what you did? You know what I mean? Do you think they're going to care about you as much? Or even, you know, or like you then have to live with that for, I don't know, like that whole, and it's something that was a trope a lot in the past. I don't see it as much, I don't think, anymore. I don't know. But I'm glad that I think in both versions, it kind of like, it starts out that way and then pivots nicely. Because if it didn't pivot, I don't think I would like this episode. But Lita, of course, she's too nice, she's too kind, and she probably could feel, I would imagine if her character is real, she would sort of feel in the moment, oh, this isn't the right thing, and then, you know, swoop in with the encouragement.
Oh, sure, but what made you want to become a biologist, Lita?
Oh, Andrew was telling me all about your trip to Africa, and it sounded neat.
Yeah, it will be. If I decide to go, but I'm not sure it's worth losing Andrew over it. I know it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but I don't want him to meet anyone else.
You can't miss out on an opportunity like this. No way! I'd go to Africa in a minute, especially if it meant fulfilling my greatest dream. And who knows, maybe you and Andrew will just pick up where you left off. I'm not too good at this romantic sabotage stuff.
We cut to Andrew's apartment, and what's different about it?
It's completely clean.
Yeah, and what does Serena immediately see?
A coffee cup that is not empty, and then she like picks it up and smells it or whatever.
Yeah, they made it less creepy in the English, in the sense that she was like, oh, it's the coffee cup I gave him for Christmas. And then she picks it up and she's like, I wonder if he thinks about me when he uses it, to kind of explain why she's holding it. So she's not just like randomly smelling his coffee, although I could tell that's what she was doing. I thought that was kind of cute. And then we have this cooking scene. And I think this is something that got partially cut from the English, but isn't
hold on. There was something that did, maybe it's about what you were going to say, but there was something that got cut out of the English. Then,
tell me what it is.
Like right before Usagi and Makoto actually go into his apartment, Usagi has a fantasy about Motoki asking her to marry him, and then she says that, oh, I'm not emotionally ready for that, and then when she closes her eyes in the vision, she like closes her eyes in real life, and then when it goes back to reality, she's leaning up to kiss Makoto, and Makoto's like, stop being weird.
Oh yeah, that's not in this episode at all.
I didn't think it would be.
In the English one, I think there's a lot of little, like, I don't know what you would call that, ambiguous.
Yeah,
it's jokey, flirty between girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I think they do cut a lot of that out probably in the first 2 seasons. No, I thought there was a thing that happened where she cuts her finger.
Oh, that is, yeah. It's just a little tiny thing at the end where she's like, oh, I cut my finger, and you see, just for like a second, you see her finger bloody, but that was because of the Susan was talking about it in our interview that, the Canadian stuff was so strict that if there was anything like that remotely, it had to be cut out.
That's why I wanted to highlight it though, because I think sometimes when people hear stuff, even like in an interview, because she was saying, oh, if there's like a scene with a kid riding a bicycle without a helmet, they had to cut it out. Yeah. I think people hear that and they'd be like, yeah, sure, that's like exaggerating. That literally, it was like 2 frames of red color.
Right.
And when you cut your finger, you bleed. And I think children know that.
Yeah.
And it was like, but that is how strict these laws were. And so the fact that we got the show at all is still kind of blows my mind today. Because like they really had to do a lot to get this to come over here for us. And I think the more I learn about that, the more it makes me appreciate it even more, because I'm like, I don't think they wanted to make most of these changes.
No.
They kind of just had to, like, period. And what are they going to do? Fight the Canadian government over it? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think sometimes we look at history and our expectations need to be adjusted to like the climate of the time a little. But anyway, we're in this, after this whole cutout finger scene, who calls Andrew and why?
Rika calls him from a phone booth in the city and says that she, at least as of now, she decided that she isn't going to go to Africa anymore. And one thing I didn't mention before, Rika is another interesting voice actor situation in both languages. In Japanese, she's voiced by Rika Fukami, who is Venus's voice actress. And then in the Viz redub, she's voiced by Erica Mendez, who later became Sailor Uranus.
Oh, see, to any voice actors who are listening, if you ever land a part that's like smaller on a show, go in and like go balls out, because you never know. I'm sure that happens in a lot where I know I used to watch Glee, which did not age well, by the way. Good luck if you watch it today. But there were I remember watching that, and there were characters on the show who would like really catch your eye from the background, and then the next season they were like a main character. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, even small parts, even small opportunities can turn into some like big stuff, So Rika cancels going to Africa, and Andrew wants to go find her because she's out in the rain or whatever. And he leaves, leaving the 2 girls in his apartment alone, and he's gone for a while. What happens after he's been gone?
The Moonstick starts reacting, and then Luna tells both of them to transform, and then they do, and then it cuts to a great little scene, which is probably my entire favorite scene in the whole episode, where Zoisite is standing in front of Reika and Motoki, and they're surrounded by fire. And it's this really cool pan, like really brief but cool pan shot of Zoisite that's drawn really well. And then Motoki just tries punching Zoisite, and then Zoisite easily uses a blast to knock him away, and then obviously makes Reika transform into the monster, and then Reika is containing the blue rainbow crystal.
This is one of my favorite battle scenes from this arc. Maybe from season 1, because like you were saying, when we cut to Zoisite with the fire and everything, that is, I think, one of the coolest just scenes for Zoisite, period, animation wise. And I think they recognized how cool that was, because it's used in the like today on Sailor Moon, like how they do the intro. They pulled from that right away. They wanted people to see that. And I thought, like, we'll kind of dissect the battle a little bit here, but one of the reasons I like it so much is the monster had several different techniques that were utilized, and they made sense for her character. And the scouts who participated, like, everything they did had a purpose. So let's kind of go through what happens here. we see this moment with Zoisite and Andrew trying to defend Rita from Zoisite by himself, and of course he can't, because
Out of the way, wimp. It's your girlfriend I'm after, not you. Now move. Don't say I didn't warn you. Now where were we?
Monster! What do you want?
Rita, we're on the same side. You just don't remember. But soon enough you will. You'll see.
What's happening? Why are you after me?
Because you've got something I need. The rainbow crystal.
Free at last!
Did you see that?
Rita's a nega monster. Careful, sailors. She's dangerous and unpredictable.
And she gets the blue crystal, like you were saying. Can you describe the monster that Rita turns into?
Yeah, it's a woman, obviously, that has they kind of look similar to an alien. They have an entirely green, almost a neon green body, and a completely barren head besides a tuft of like white blonde and then pink hair at the bottom, and then one big monocle eyeglass, and then all the techniques that we see them use are related to science and cells and stuff like that.
Yeah. Tuxedo Mask shows up after we get to see this monster, and he's there to go after the crystal. So he kind of has his thing going on with Zoisite. We see a brief moment of Jupiter and Moon kind of talking about him, and I think, I don't know if it's the same, but Jupiter's saying, I thought you were in love with Andrew. Now you like Tuxedo Mask. Like,
yeah.
You can't go after everyone, right? So that little thing happens, and then we get to the monster's first attack, which in the English they call it leeches. These little like things that kind of glob onto the Sailor Moon's legs.
Ew, leeches!
Those leeches are gonna suck all the energy out of you. You'll be lower on the food chain than even an amoeba.
She needs to brush up on her biology.
And she says they're gonna just totally suck her dry and destroy her. Is that what they call them in the Japanese?
They're not really called anything, but I mean, it's clear that it's some kind of amoeba type of thing. And then the monster says in a scientific way, roasts Usagi, saying that she only has she only has one cell in her brain, and then Luna has to explain what that means.
I kind of like that. Okay. That's kind of funny. I think it wasn't supposed to be leeches. I think it was supposed to literally be like I don't know, cancer cells or something.
Yeah.
It just looked like a blob of science. How do those get taken care of?
I'm gonna blast this broad all the way back to the Negaverse. Say goodbye! Jupiter!
This'll be fun!
She sucked up my power!
Blast them!
Look out!
Yeah! She's got your power!
Yeah, and if I zap her again, it'll make her even stronger.
How does that happen? I don't...
Jupiter, it was so weird. Jupiter uses her Thunder Crash and it like zaps those things away. But then what happens after that?
Then the monster gets out a big glass beaker and pretty much absorbs the attack inside the beaker and then sends it back to them. And then they dodge, but there's still a bunch of lightning left in the beaker, and then they don't know how they're gonna get past that.
That, and they're kind of saying, well, if I do my attack again, she's just gonna absorb it.
Yeah.
And who shows up after that?
Mercury and Mars.
And what happens first?
Mercury uses the bubble spray attack, and then Ray uses the Fire Soul to destroy the beaker, and then they're all surrounding Reika, and then that's when Usagi uses the healing escalation.
And I think that sometimes if you're not paying attention, the bubbles do kind of come off, like what was the point of that? But in this situation, it's like by throwing the fog in first, the monster didn't know what was going on, couldn't see them, and that opens up the opportunity to destroy her weapon, which was preventing them from doing anything. And it's just like a smart tactical move there. And trust me, if I think it's stupid, I'll tell you. Because I'm very specific about her bubbles, but I really like the use of them here. I was expecting Mars to just hit her with fire, so I also liked that she got rid of the weapon. I thought that was a smarter move than just straight damage. And then we get our moon healing activation. Zoisite tricks Tuxedo and ends up getting the crystal here.
You're not getting that crystal!
You win this time. I'm no match for the great Tuxedo Mask. So long. I can't believe you fell for that, the great Tuxedo Mask, done in by his own ego.
Next time we meet, I'll be ready for you, Zoisite.
Andrew!
Huh?
And then we see what I thought was like, I would say it was cool, but also kind of a still. So I have like medium feelings about it when she leaves with the cherry blossoms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it could have been cooler, but it was still cool because I always like that. So, and after this drama and everything, we cut over to the conclusion of Rita's story. What's going on here?
They're in the airport together, her and Motoki, and then they're just saying that, typical couple stuff when somebody is going on a trip for a long time. I'll write you immediately, and I'll talk to you soon. And then Reika goes down an escalator to catch the flight, because you hear it being announced over the intercom, and then the episode ends with Usagi and Makoto running towards Motoki, saying that, jokingly saying that they can still have a chance, and that's it. It ends on a still frame of Motoki with a big cartoonish tear sweat drop, watching both of them frolic around in the airport.
It goes kind of goofy with the animation, like last second again. And at this point, in the English, it kind of comes off ambiguous to me, like with Andrew and Rita, will she come back? Will they stay together? We don't really know, but we're hoping for the best.
Rita!
This is the last call for boarding on flight 402 to Nairobi, Africa.
Well, I guess you'd better go. It's last call.
I know. I'll miss you so much.
I'll miss you too.
I'll write
each day.
Me too.
All passengers on flight 402 should now be at the gate. This is the final
Andrew,
boarding
you'll be in my heart.
You in mine.
Wow, that's the most romantic thing I've ever seen.
Yep, and now that it's over, we should invite him out for a milkshake.
You're still after
No,
him?
but I can flirt.
Hey, wait a minute! Practice for what?
Getting a date with Tuxedo Mask.
Fine!
Is that kind of how you feel like they left it?
I think in Japanese, it's pretty cemented that they're gonna stay together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think they were a little less direct about it. But that's the end of the episode. And then we get the Sailor Says.
For Lita, it was really a blow finding out Andrew had a girlfriend. Life's full of blows, but the trick is knowing how to get over them.
Yeah, it really helped talking to my friends, but the best help can come from counselors or, believe it or not, your parents.
Talking always helps me, but lots of kids get depressed and clam up. They feel like there's no one who can possibly understand them. If you're feeling that way, please reach out for help. Don't try to solve it alone. Sailor Moon says.
Which is about getting over life's little setbacks, and they use the example of finding out a guy you like has a girlfriend. And when stuff happens that gets you down, you should talk it out. Don't clam up. Ask for a counselor if you need help. Talk to your parents. But they kind of are just emphasizing, like, if you're feeling depressed, ask for help. Talk about it. That kind of thing. So I think let's talk about that a little. In the context of this show for this rating, I think that's a pretty good Sailor Says, actually. How do you feel?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a digestible message that kids could probably get. And it's something that I work on a lot with teaching, where every now and then you'll get someone who comes in and every little like wrong note, every little, oh, the finger slightly hits the thing wrong. It's like,
Yeah,
I have to start over. And like all of that is so much extraneous energy. You don't really have to do that because you made like the small in terms of mistakes. I can't think of a smaller mistake than hitting a wrong note in a music class. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's going to happen. You can't avoid it. So it's just one of those things where the sooner you can learn how to let that stuff kind of just pass over you, you acknowledge the mistake, you see what do I learn from it, and then you just learn it and let it go. Like, you know, there's no reason to sit there and kind of like rehash it a billion times. And in my experience, if you're not learning something, the world has a funny way of like shoving the message in your face stronger and stronger until you finally get it, you know? I don't know. Let's talk about that a little. Let's just expand on that if you can.
Well, I guess, yeah, just in a context in general, it's something that you get to deal with. You don't really let it bother you as much when you get older, but it's more of a problem, and it'll affect you more when you're a kid and a teenager. I guess I mean, in my experience, it's just something that you naturally become less bothered by as you get older, and you just naturally learn how to cope with things like that on your own.
Are you referencing the context of the show, like maybe romantic rejection or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go on.
Well, I was pretty much done.
Okay. No, I agree. I think dealing with romantic rejection in general gets a lot easier the older you get. I think when you're young, there's something about being young where we buy into this weird idea that like, even though we're on a planet with billions of people, somehow I'm the one most disgusting thing. And you know what I mean? Like somehow I'm the unlovable one. Like, girl, no, there are so many people out there going through so many unique, both great and terrible things that like, when it comes to that, it's just kind of about finding like people who click. And if someone doesn't click with you, you really get to a place where you're like, it is not personal. At all. The less personal it is when something doesn't work out, the better, because who wants to spend all that time and energy like, you know, thinking about an ex or whatever and like waste it? Like, who needs all that? So yeah, I agree with you. I think the older it gets, the easier all of that kind of stuff becomes. And it kind of ties into what I was talking about at the beginning of the show about laundry and just little tasks around the house. If you're someone who struggles with something called executive dysfunction, which is like the process where starting the task is the hardest thing, / that is why your home sometimes ends up messy, disorganized, etc. It kind of comes back to this idea of like, you can't beat yourself up for that because that just compounds the problem.
Yeah.
You're not going to take any steps forward while you're sitting there telling yourself you're lazy, you're stupid, you're not doing enough, whatever. That's a waste of your time. The answer is to like, or the trick anyway, one of the tricks I use is it's like, I've discovered I can clean anything for 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes of, you know what I mean? Like I can do 10 minutes. So I'll set a timer for 10 minutes and I tell myself I can stop when the timer goes off. And sometimes I do. And then a lot of the time I just keep going because I'm like, well, I'm already doing it, you know? Little hacks like that are a good way to kind of remove some of what I would consider like mental clutter. Like, you know, like beating yourself up for anything is kind of mental clutter. So I don't know. I hope that helps. Do you have any tools for dealing with things you just don't want to do, or that you maybe want to do but you can't get started on?
Not really. I'd kind of just go ahead and make myself do it, honestly, now.
Yeah, did it take time to develop that muscle?
Yeah, I would think so. It's another thing that just naturally happens as you get older, I guess.
True. Yeah, I think so. Because things just in general become less, things just bother you less as you get older.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn what to put your energy into and what's not really worth it, So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good wrap up on The Sailor Says. What are some final thoughts on this episode before we rate it?
I like it. It's one of the standouts from the first season for me, for sure.
Yeah. This was one of, like I said before, it was sort of a randomly lost episode for me for some reason. So when I did finally see it, I also was kind of like, oh, I missed something kind of good.
Yeah.
And I never got to see this one on TV, but I did get to see it from Blockbuster on video. So, you do what you can. And I saw it. That's the other thing is the first time I watched this show, it was grossly out of order, because it wasn't available in order. I mean, now you can just watch it from start to finish. So yeah, I think that's it. How many more episodes do we have for the Rainbow Crystals?
I think it's just like 6, maybe 5, something like that.
No, that's too many, because we're on Blue already, right? Although I guess, do you consider it part of the Rainbow Crystal arc after the first initial, yeah, I guess it is, because there's more to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there are 6 more. I think we see our last Rainbow Crystal target after the 2 episodes from now. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, we're getting there. All right. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's episode of MOONSTAR, a Sailor Moon podcast. Chris and I somehow still forgot to give our rating for this one, even though I said, hey, before we rate it, I don't know how we do that. But fortunately, with the power of editing, I get to tell you now. So Chris gave this week's episode a 3.5, and I give this week's episode 4 out of 5 stars. I can't really speak for Chris on the matter, but for me, I really just enjoy this episode a lot. I think it's very strong all around. You guys heard my sort of unique experience to finding it. That might color my judgment here. I'm not really sure. But other than that, I think we get a lot of important character development with Lita or Sailor Jupiter. I think the DiC Dub specifically had a lot of standout voice acting moments, as I tried to highlight by including them in the episode this week when we would talk about it. And I thought the battle overall was done pretty great, considering it's just a regular old, quote, monster of the week, and usually those can go either way. So yeah, 4 stars for me. Sound off wherever you want in the comments, or in a 5-star review of MOONSTAR wherever you get your podcast. That's the best thing you can do to support the show. Please do it. Thank you to those who have. What are your feelings on Too Many Girlfriends, or whatever version of this episode you watched? Tell us everything. I want to know exactly how you feel. But yeah, let me know where you stand on. Are you one of those people who is all about the romance drama of it all, or are you one of those? There used to be a song, I think it's a Taylor Swift song, that talked about needing that kind of stuff for romance to feel real. Are you one of those, or are you someone who's more no, the more chill it is, the better? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Sound off, let us know. Final reminders for those of you who are interested. Auditions are still open for Sailor Moon and Other Story the series, as well as Project Gaiden card. You can find both of these on Casting Call Club's website. Just search the project titles or follow the links in today's episode descriptions. For more of Chris, you can find him on YouTube and Instagram at Chris Mayek, ChrisMayek. For more of me, you can find me on my YouTube channel at Sailor Moon Video, new branding, or find me on Instagram at Alex Summers, SFE. For a complete catalog of official VHS and DVD collectible items containing the version of Sailor Moon that we covered on today's show, also known as the DiC Dub, you can visit www.sailormoonvideo.com. MOONSTAR fans get 15% off with the offer code MOONSTAR. Special offer extended through the remainder of 2023. Gift cards also available. MOONSTAR, a Sailor Moon podcast, is intended for informational, entertainment, and educational purposes only. We do not claim ownership over any of the sound effects, audio clips, or music used during the creation of this show. All licensed and copyrighted content belongs expressly to those licensed and copyright content holders.
Okay, which one of you brats wants to get barbecued first?
Jupiter, can't you turn that lightning bolt off?
Too bad I can't toast your other pals with you.
Mercury bubbles!
What?
Mercury!
And Mars!
Sorry it took us so long. Now, let's get rid of the slime queen. Mars, fire! Sailor Moon, it's up to you now.
You've got to save Rita before it's too late.
So, what are you waiting for? Give your mouth a rest. Just hurry up before she gets away. Quit giving orders.
Hey, we're a team, remember?